Okay, this is Tyrone Rogers. Um, I'm starting a channel. It's more of a political channel. My other channel is a music political channel that follows me and me creating music for another different type of platform. This platform is more me talking on political topics. And I've actually made several of these videos, but I've yet to do anything with them. I decided to redo the video that redo this type of video that I've made before, which is basically a walkaway video, which for me is kind of a late thing because I walked away years ago. I believe it was about let's see, it's 2020, a good 13 years. Actually, 14, because it was 2006 when I walked away from the left and being a Democrat. Okay, I'm gonna try to make this story as short as possible, but provide as much information as possible, as much as I can remember from 14 years ago. So here it is. Basically, I what started me walking away from the Democrat Party and the left was basically one of my coworkers and friends back then. When I was working at Vistion, one of the coworkers there, we were having this talk and debate. We were joking around as usual, and he had mentioned that he voted for Bush, and obviously this is Bush. This was in Bush's second term. It was the ending of his second term, and I remember the candidates were starting to surface for the next campaign for the 2008 election. Yeah. And I remember when I heard this. Now, my friend back then, we called him little homie. His name was Antonio. He was Mexican. I remember everybody was giving him a hard time and leaning in on him and, saying he was stupid and how could he vote for George Bush and how could he be a Republican and all of this. And I remember having the same attitude and saying some of the same things. And I remember trying to justify and hit him with so many opinions because they weren't facts. It was a lot of opinions of me telling him why he shouldn't be a Republican and why he should be a Democrat because he's Mexican and he's minority and all this stuff, and how Republicans are for they're racist and against black people and minorities and all of the usual rhetoric. And so I remember him saying, everything that I say now, which is funny because he was like, no, that's not true. Republicans aren't the racists. It's actually the Democrat Party that's the racist, and they have the long history of racism and all of this stuff. And I wasn't trying to hear it. And none of my other coworkers at the time were trying to hear it. So I remember he was telling me, well, look it up for yourself. He was like, check out this one radio station. One of the people in particular, Michael Medved, he said, check him out, listen to the station, you'll like him. He'll upset you, but listen to him anyway. He provides facts and references with everything that he say. And he was like, feel free to cross-reference and check everything he's saying, see if it's actually true. So, me being me, I did, and I mostly did it to prove him wrong. I remember first time I listened to Michael Medved, he upset me, because he's saying all these things that go against what I knew to be true. And I think it mostly upset me because it turned my whole reality on its back, you know. And I know that's what most black people, what they go through when they hear me talk, What I'm telling them, throw their whole reality on its back. They don't know how to take it and they get upset. I know this because this is the same thing that I went through hearing this information for the first time. So the only difference with me is because I'm the type of person, I have to know everything. I tried proving my friend wrong, so I went home, got on the internet, immediately started looking up as much information as possible. I started with looking up what does it mean to be a Republican? What does it mean to be a Democrat? What's the definition of a conservative? What's the definition of a liberal, a moderate? I started looking up all the basic information. I started looking at the history of both parties. I started looking at pretty much everything, right down to the party symbols, the donkey and the elephant. I looked up as much information as possible. And I started feeling like, because everything I found, it wasn't helping me prove my case. It was actually helping me solidify my friend Antonio's case. Saying everything I was pulling up, it was basically showing that he was correct. So I started feeling like, well, maybe it's just the internet. Maybe I can't trust what I read on the internet. So let me go to the library. I'm looking at some old-fashioned books. So I didn't know exactly where to look. So I'll go to the library and ask the librarian there to, point me in the direction of books on American political history. Don't ask me to cite any books that I read through for information because I really can't remember. But I remember she pointed me in the direction of maybe 5 different books, and I was looking through them, and I once again wasn't finding anything to really prove my friend wrong. Everything that I read and found was proving him right. That the history, the way it was the Democrat Party was the party of the KKK and racism and segregation and everything, and that in fact the Republican Party was the party. It was actually founded on civil rights, on black civil rights. Black people were working along with white Republicans for civil rights, and it was astonishing because I had never learned anything like this in school. The one time I can remember hearing anything close to this was in high school. My history teacher, I remember he mentioned that, but he also said what I hear a lot now was that, the party switched. So don't get it twisted. It's not what you think. The party switched. So the Republicans of back in the day are actually the Democrats of today, and vice versa, which is also a BS story, but that's a whole nother video for another day. So I went from, the more I couldn't find anything to prove my point and to prove my friend wrong, I started it felt like a veil started to be lifted off of my eyes, and something started to lift off of me. And I got kind of angry. I was angry at first at the idea of what I had known to be true, everything being turned on its back. It was confusing. And I had always felt that something was wrong with the Democrat Party. I just didn't know what it was. And tradition and what we've always been told was, vote Democrat. You just go with the flow. Don't buck the system. Vote Democrat. That's all you need to know. And always felt something was wrong with that. I never agreed with abortion. I never agreed with a lot of the stance on a lot of liberal stance or leftist stance. But I just went along. And then once I saw that and read about the history, it piqued my interest even more. And I began to look further and further into the history and the different politicians throughout history. Like, man, I think it was, I don't think I ever stopped looking. I wanted to say it was a 10-year search, but I don't think I ever stopped looking. I still look up new information and learn new things because there's so much history to learn on the topic that I'm constantly looking up new information. And I have yet to find anything to make me feel like I made the wrong decision by leaving the Democrat Party. I've just find more information that points to my old friend's claim and what he knew and what I now knew. So I would say maybe a good month after my friend red pilled me back there, before it was even a thing to be red pilled, or that was even a term, before he red pilled me. I think it was like a month later where I was like full in, like saying that, I think I'm a Republican. I think I'm conservative because everything that I read about what conservatives believed, I had aligned with. It was part of who I was. That was my personality. That was my moral compass. Like that was me. It described me and my personality to a T. So it was like, how am I a Democrat? How am I a liberal? I don't think I am, because I don't agree with anything from that side. Everything that I agree with aligns with Republican. So with my walkaway story, I'll begin to explain how I feel. That's how I became a Republican from being a lifelong Democrat. And I got red pilled fairly early, Fortunately, at the time I was I think I just turned 27. Yeah. Here's the thing that's most drastic for me, and why it boggles my mind. When I was a Democrat and I was full on brainwashed, like most Americans are, and I was following a lot of the things they were saying, buying into a lot of the, woe is me stories, and the white man is holding black people back and holding black people down, and there's systemic racism and all this stuff. I was buying into all of that. And to be perfectly honest, I never really was 100% sold. I always felt like something was a little off with all of that. I just couldn't put my finger on it, but when I was a Democrat, I felt there was always an underlying anger, an underlying, I like to say I wore these black people shades. I looked at the world through black people shades. And what I mean by that is when I looked at society, I saw it as everybody is against black people, no matter what color you are. You white, Hispanic, Asian, even black people were against black people. It was always us against the world type of thing. When I came across white people, there was always What are they thinking about me? Type of question that popped into my head. And I saw them with these black experience glasses, the black people glasses, the black lens. I viewed them and always had this chip on my shoulder as if they're looking at me a certain way because I'm black. And I always felt that like I had this thought of like, no matter what I do, is there's always going to be a thumb on me from the system to make it that much harder for me to get ahead, for me to do anything. It's always going to be that thumb on me, pushing me down that much more in comparison to my white or any other color counterparts. That wasn't done to any other color as much as it was black people. Even if you weren't white, you still had at least a little bit of a notch ahead than we did. That was my mindset back then. And I remember it being a really defeated mindset, and I felt it was a drag. It was a huge drag on my mental, as I'm pretty sure it is for a lot of black people. And here's what I noticed when I did my research and I became a conservative. When I discovered that I was in fact a conservative and not a Democrat or a liberal or a leftist, I felt a huge weight being lifted off of me the instant I realized I was conservative. And that led me to believe that most of my oppression that I felt was coming from white people was more psychologically being held on by me. It may have been put on me by society, but I kept it on me. Nobody was holding that psychological oppression on me. I was holding on myself. And as soon as I realized the truth, it was like a weight's lifted off me. It was like everything was a lot clearer. It was like I could see the world for what it was, and it did. As far as seeing, it didn't happen instantly. It took a few years to shed the black perspective of how we view the world and white people. And I would say, really, it wasn't until recently to where I could say it's 100% gone. I don't view the world and any other race the same way. I view everybody completely different from the way I did back then when I was a Democrat. There's a sense of freedom, mental freedom you get, which is mind-boggling, because what black people are fighting for today, what they're saying that white people should do for black people and for society, and acknowledging white privilege is bullshit, because we could actually do it for ourselves. There's nothing they can do for us. That's why I don't claim that white privilege even exists. I think it's a bunch of bull, because of what I've experienced and for myself. But I think for everybody that spent their whole life being a Democrat, or should I say not being conservative, and not knowing what it's like to be conservative, and freeing your mind from what you've been taught your whole life, you can't speak on what it is on this side until you've done your own homework and come on this side. Many black people that are Democrats, and they refuse to see Republicans as anything but racist. And we repeat the lines of other Democrats, which is mind-boggling. But when we repeat the lines that they tell us that describe Republicans, and it's always this. It's not even overt. It's they like to say it's this dog whistle, which makes no sense. But I would challenge a lot of other black Democrats or any Democrat to look on the other side closely with an unbiased, with an open mind, you know, and start to question things, which I think everybody should do at some point. You know, the way black people view the Democrat Party, we almost treat it like a religion because we won't turn or question it, but we question everything else in life. But we won't question whether or not we're a Democrat or whether or not we're voting for a Democrat. We will not question it. Why? You will leave your faith as a Christian before you begin to question a party, which is one of the biggest things that show me that a lot of black people are brainwashed, or a lot of Americans, period. But it's huge that a lot of them won't even question, you know, things that, you know, as black people, we know certain things don't, we've understood that certain things didn't sound right. We just didn't know what it was. We didn't know why. We just figured it's racism in general. We didn't know it was one particular side. We don't delve into politics like that because we're always told that the system is unfair and it's not for us. And I think we were fed a lot of lies to keep us at bay and from getting too close to discovering the truth. We were given, I hate to think this way, but I think that we were sold out by some of our black leaders for, you know, their prominent positions. I think we were sold out by a lot of them for their position of power to basically keep the black community in check and to guarantee that vote. I wholeheartedly believe that there were some black leaders that we had that sold us out, that pushed that lie and narrative and had us continuing to believe a lie and narrative for decades. And it's still happening today, you know. We have these that's why I don't like the idea of a leader, period. I think that you should study and search and seek your own information for yourself. You know, I think you should question everybody, whether they're conservative or they're a leftist. I think you should question them. It's not people that we're following. You know, this is a set of ideas. It's a ideology. It's not people that we're following. And this is where people get confused. It's not people at all. But that's pretty much my story, my walkaway story, and how I basically left the left and am now, I think, about 14 years away from being on the left. And I left and haven't looked back. And I see it only getting worse, you know, them polarizing the sides and the people. They're drawing the people further and further apart. They've created more special interest groups, and it's getting worse. And what I'm seeing is a lot of these Democrats are eating their own. You know, they're turning against each other. basically because a lot of the special interest groups are against each other. So it's kind of like that's pretty much what happens when you have those things. It implodes because you have a lot of these groups that are against each other, and when you're fighting for that special interest title and that entitlement, that's what happened. You will start to each your own, and one group go after another because it's kind of like it's kind of how it is. Even though on the right we have diversity, whether they acknowledge it or not, it's diversity, but it's the same thought as far as why we're conservative and what we stand for and believe. So there's a real common mutual thought on the right, more so than I think it is on the left. And that's pretty much it. I'm not going to keep dragging it on. I've actually gone on a lot longer than what I wanted to. So, with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up and just end it with this.